I hereby call the City of Lloydminster Governance and Priorities Committee meeting to order. And at this time, we will take a silent moment of personal reflection. As a reminder, all members of council are obligated to declare a conflict of interest or pecuniary interest as per section 133 of the Lloydminster Charter regarding any item on this agenda. This meeting is for discussion and information gathering only. All decisions will occur during council meetings. We thank all of our presenters for their time. At this time, we'll go to item number 2 on the agenda, the approval of the agenda. We'll look to members of this committee for recommendation. Councillor Monroe.
That the agenda dated August 30, 2017 be approved.
Second. Councillor Fagin. Any questions or discussion before I call for the question? Not seeing any. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Just for note for committee members, Councillor Diachuk was unable to attend due to a personal matter that just came up, and Councillor Torson will be joining us after he deals with a personal matter later this afternoon. Moving to item number 3, the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. I'll look to Council for recommendation. Councillor Hagan.
That the minutes of the Governance and Priority Committee meeting dated July 10th, 2017 be approved.
Look to for second. Councillor Buckingham. Any discussion, comments from those minutes? Not seeing any. I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Straying from our usual council, this is an activity we try to do at council meetings, but due to the timing, I'm going to take a move to number 4 for proclamations and invite the representatives of Big Brothers and Big Sisters to join me at the podium. In September, Big Brothers Big Sisters Month, whereas Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Lloydminster is an important community organization committed to helping children and youth reach their full potential by matching them with caring, volunteering mentors. And whereas evidence-based research has shown that for every dollar invested in Big Brothers Big Sisters mentoring, society gets a return of $18. In addition, youth who've had a big brother or big sister are less likely to be bullied or be bullied, feel better about school, and are more likely to have a healthy and positive outlook on life well into adulthood. And whereas we believe that by changing the course of young lives, we can in turn be changing the course of the community's future. That it could lead to a reduction in poverty and unemployment, to safer schools and neighborhoods, or to renewed optimism for growth. And whereas Big Brothers Big Sisters of Lloydminster rely heavily on the strength and dedication of its volunteers who, through their commitment and support, make a profound difference in the lives of children and youth in our community. And whereas the agency's goal is to expand its recruitment drive in order to serve more children and youth in our community. Now therefore, I, Gerald S. Albert, Mayor of the City of Lloydminster, do hereby proclaim September 2017 as Big Brother, Big Sister Month. I encourage everyone to volunteer or donate by visiting www.imaginebes.ca and learn more about how you can get involved in giving young people the confidence to achieve more.
invite you to visit our Facebook and our website every day in September for news from our agency and from across the country. This particular campaign will be national as well, and so that's a bit of a change for us. We usually locally have to do all of our own items, so we're looking forward to doing something different. As well as it's recruitment month for us at the Brothers Big Sisters. We have 39 children on the waiting list for our winter. And so we'll be hosting an agency barbecue on September the 18th from 11 to 1 and 5 to 7. So for anyone that might be interested in some information and a tour of our agency, we encourage you to stop by anytime that day actually. The kids will be in the facility after school, so you're more than welcome to join us early and catch a bit of a view of some of the programming that's happening in our agency. Thank you for your time.
At this time, we'll move on to item number 5, public presentations. And we have 5.1 water bylaw. So please identify yourself and the subject of your presentation. When presenting, please address the chair, be respectful, and speak into the mic. Council may ask clarifying questions once you have completed your presentation. Please be advised the procedure bylaw limits delegations to one speaker and that you will have 10 minutes to present your matter to council.
Thank you very much. My name is Hamid Ramania for the people of London. Okay. Thank you very much. I'll be to the point. Basically, I might be representing myself, but that would be good as well as other landlord in the city. And we haven't. I'm not here to say if that the active account bylaw is right or not to argue that, even though I don't agree with it. But the way it is implemented, I'm here to put a bridge between the landlords and the city, because eventually the way it is being implemented is going to take us to the legal battle, and that's the last thing I want to do, and the last thing I'm sure the city want to do. My suggestions are very, very simple. First, for example, there should be a limit on the liability of the landlord. I have many cases that, for example, at the 5211 50th Street, I have a water bill over $6,000 that to me is beyond reasonable. How much equity you would have in the land that you're going to pay that on the penalty. And that to me, it is passing the buck again from mismanagement of supplying water to a place premises constantly month after month without receiving any money for it. And at one point, the city should have cut off the water to this premises. But we didn't know that till the bank phoned us that we have our own property taxes against our property, and we have to, defaulting on part of our agreement. And we approached the city, we found out sure the water bill had applied to the premises. We complained, so they gave us credit for the months the law wasn't passed, but sure to penalize us over $3,000 for the water bill. To me, that is not right. Should be the maximum of 1 month consumption, or estimated 200, 300, 400, and after that bill is not connected. Should be disconnected regardless. I phoned this electrical company. If even they don't talk to my wife for that account, if I am in charge of the account, I should have a right to connect or disconnect that service. But I have many cases that doesn't happen, and I am penalized for that property. I'll give you examples. On property 46, 17, 46th Street, the lady stayed, paid the bill, we didn't collect. We of course, few days later, why she hasn't paid, we approached it, even 1 month passed. The guy show up that basically gives the tenant now. Who you? Don't know who he is. Basically, homeless people have moved in there. We applied for the city to disconnect the water, no. As of today, basically, we cannot disconnect the water. This correspondent comes to us what is the reason and the one explanation and why. And I still cannot rent that property because homeless people come from second floor, break the window and go into the house, and that house is very hard to rent. So I have no other weapon but cutting utilities, things out of that place, make sure it's not available. But basically people knock on the door once the rent sign on from the whatever sources they have, and then moving the area responsible for water account. And there is no dispute mechanism attached to this bylaw. For example, if I have a problem at the water department, of course they are not going to say withdrawn, and they penalize me, and there is no other place to go to come here. It took me a long way, many favors to get here, and that is to me, we should do something that the city more approachable to. The problem on homelessness, I'm sure you are aware of brought up, but we get a lot of problem on that, and I have a solution for that if the city would have a $2 million, $100,000 year budget. But beyond that, all I'm asking, I have case after case after case that this bylaw is not implemented jointly. At one house, 4627, the lady is very nice. I have a court case. I haven't got her out. She owes me $5,000 some, but the city does not disconnect the water. If she runs away, I still get stuck with the bill. I have a property that basically, I can go on and go on the cases. I'm not going to waste your time and my time. I wish we would have a member of the team that I can go case by case that the bylaw, if it's a lady, that she was naked, disconnected the water, if not connected the water.
Mr. Hunt, if we could stay on point and not.
Okay, sure. I will not go to the
case
cases.
of individuals, please.
Yes. Basically, my point is the amendment to the bylaw. As it is, for example, the water bill to 5207, I have no choice but to the court to get rid of $3,000 some bill. I would be happy to $300, even say $500 maximum put a limit on this process. But do not pass on every basic misunderstanding. Basically pass on to the landlord, the landlord. I'm telling you, the market is very rough on business people. And the hotel business and residential property. We have houses that we are renting $2,400, we are having $1,600. At the penthouse, we were paying and charging $1,100, we're charging $795. Water, gas, cable, internet included, we have 30% vacancy. 30% reduction in rent, 30% vacancy, we have 10% not paying the rent. I'm asking the city to be more cooperative, that if I basically say this tenant is bad, basically disconnect the water, do not pass on the liability to me. And basically have the amendment to police somehow, I don't know how that works out, to protect us from the homeless people. I'm just basically have a picture of people who kicked in the door, I have a picture of person coming out, and I show it to the police, they cannot touch it. They say the door was open when they walked in. And just, that is again, that's beyond scope of this business. Thank you very, very, very much time. I'm sure I put most of my point across. If more detail needed discussion why the bylaw is not being enforced evenly through the city. Some people get a break and the water gets disconnected and won't comply, and some people they don't. And that is an inconsistency that you should be basically responsible for. Secondly, stop water supply to the houses that they are bad account, and there should be a limit on it. And that's all I'm asking for, to basically be a bridge between the business people and the city to make this bylaw work for both of us, and we both can. I know the city is in a financial thing and they decided to indirect tax the landlord. That is no problem, but please put a limit on it, and please give us a. If I am in charge of the power, I'm paying for the bill, I should be in charge of disconnecting it too. That is somehow cannot have a ticket, supplying it, and I'm going to revenue it, making revenue out of the water bill, and the landlord has to pay for it, even the homeless people living in it. And I have to prove point case by point, which is the case right or not. No. If I choose it, I tell them it's bad, they should write a letter and make the tenant responsible for the bill after that, and I should be out of the liability. Thank you very, very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Time again.
Thank you, sir. At this time, does council have any questions? Just to ask questions to gather more information. Councilor Baker.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess the first question is, by law, Can you shut off utilities in a facility when it's occupied?
If it's electricity, sure. Our phone in right away will disconnect.
You can?
Yes.
How about health regulations? Shutting off water in January in an apartment that is occupied, is that acceptable or legal?
And water will not freeze on
Councillor
our place.
So if I can intercede, I think this is a question that needs to go back to administration.
Well, wherever it goes is good.
Yeah, right, but I believe that right now the question should be directed to the speaker just regarding his.
Well, but I thought he might know it, so.
Yeah, he might, I'd like to send that to administration to get a little more, and make sure that.
I am right now ordering a gadget that goes overboard my water meter and lock it up. That gadget has not come available yet. And eventually I will come back and I will leave with the consciousness of legal battle. But it is a question of liability and control. I have no control over the bill. There will be at some point, I'm normally, morally, if I'm wrong, legally I'm right to. This is morally not right to be responsible unlimited liability for whatever happened, for the water flow to a place. If a person doesn't pay the bill, you should shut it down. 1 month, 2 months, now $6,500 bill. And if a homeless person goes in there and leave the tap open, after 1 month, the water will be way beyond $5,000. Why would I have to pay that?
Councilor Monroe.
I guess in regards to the homeless people that you're saying are going into your home, I think that's something that you should maybe contact the Office of the Rentalsman or someone regarding, because that's your own property and you need to be dealing with that. But I think if the city would notice if the tap was running nonstop, we would know that the bill was, we would know that the consumption was abnormally high.
Wonderful, my point. You have a control over what the consumption is done. After a certain unreasonable consumption,
Well,
you should shut it down.
Well, unreasonable consumption, we do contact the homeowner. If it's unreasonable and we notice this, we do contact.
And the
Let that
landlord,
just run.
and also should be landlord too, because he's going to be ultimately responsible for the bill. So you notify the landlord? No.
I think there's some policies that have come into place that haven't fully been implemented due to process with our automated water metering program that's going to come into place is not active yet. So today,
Would we not still be aware if the water was running straight for a month? We would know that that's happening. There's other businesses that we've been known that they're abnormal water consumption,
Yeah,
correct?
yes.
We would know abnormal for a month.
So can you tell me, why
Maybe not
at
one day, but a month.
why at 5211 50th Street, the account is stayed active for over 6 months, even though we argued, please shut it down, and we argued that this person is not paid or put it under their name and collect, and finally they will collect it.
excuse me, sir, we don't want to start this into the debate, as you can
Sure,
appreciate.
okay.
And we would ask you to direct that question to administration, that particular item, and that may be one of the ones you've discussed on your letter. But we will be responding to your letter directly. Is there any other questions for the speaker regarding his presentation? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on to item number 6, administrative presentations. 6.1, capital project update, city manager.
Thank you, Your Worship, and council members. Welcome back from your summer school.
Thank you.
So we have a number of 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3 are finance reports that we're going to present. I'm going to ask Brooke Fair, who's manager of our finance, to come up and present on the capital project update. They've prepared a second quarter capital status update for council review, discussion, and feedback. So Brooke, if you could come forward, I appreciate it. Thanks, Brooke.
So we prepared this second quarter capital update to provide you guys with an update on how our capital projects are going. We have identified 8 projects that are either going slightly over budget or we're unbudgeted for the year, and they're over budget by $106,200. There are also some 3 projects to date that have been completed within their budget of $770,000. if you guys have any questions on capital project update.
Councilor Buckingham.
Thank you, Warren. Questions on behalf of some of our members that weren't here or aren't able to be here quite yet today. For Councilor Diachuk, for starters. He says that in reviewing the capital list, he saw that there were chairs and tables and some other items that perhaps shouldn't be on that list. He said in his previous experience, these items typically have had a furniture line versus a capital expenditure line. Do we use a cost threshold to put these things on a capital list, or should there be a separate line item for those as opposed to capital?
We currently use a capital threshold of $1,000. So any capital items that were budgeted that exceeded $1,000 would be on our capital list.
So it doesn't matter if I can intercede here, Brooke, it doesn't matter if it's a lawnmower, vacuum cleaner, or chairs, tables, or a vehicle, anything over $1,000 we capitalize over a period of time. Thank you for that. Any other questions?
And none more.
Councilor Buckingham.
Thank you, Your Worship. Brooke, our capital tax levy has been received according to the budget the mill rate set in May. Of course, if you don't complete all the projects by year end, do the funds levied for the budgeted projects simply roll into the next year, or does the 2018 budget normally dictate what those funds will go towards, and the funds in reserve from 2017 be reallocated based on the new budget?
Thank you, Your Worship. Councilor Buckingham. Sorry, can I get that one more time?
So basically, anything that's not completed, how does the financials roll with all of those things as we go forward? Under budget, over budget, does it roll forward to the next thing for setting up budget?
So if a capital budget isn't completed in the year, then we ask administration to re-budget for that project for the next year if they want completed in the following year. And then the capital levy would be used for new projects from like the 2018 budget.
Yeah, and that's I think the normal practice, and what we've asked council to do is to take those and roll those forward and make that decision on a council basis. But basically, is that the normal practice? Is that how it's supposed to be done in those situations? Yeah. Okay. That's what I have for those.
Okay, any other questions regarding the capital project update? Thank you very much for Councilor Baker.
For clarification, the mayor was, Brooke, if the project is halfway finished and the project isn't finished, it just carries on, right? Are we only talking about if the project hasn't started? Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yes, yes. Sorry to answer.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Brooke.
All right, any questions? In the presentation, there's no reason we do not have to receive this information.
No, it's just for your, sorry, this is just for information, that's the objective.
Thank you very much, Brooke. There's no other questions. Or I guess you get to speak to 6.2 as well.
That's correct.
All right, then let's move to 6.2 at this time, which is the monthly financial reports.
Okay, so we prepared the June monthly financial reports for your guys' review and feedback. If you have any questions, I could try to answer them.
I'll take that stab at this first, if that's all right. Certainly, I think, appreciate the information that's provided on a monthly basis by the city administration to us to give us an idea of where we're seeing some trends. And as we go through this, and I'll speak about this right now, it's interesting. In the last report, I talked about building permits. We haven't seen any commercial building permits taken out, commercial property moving from the city developed property. So it certainly indicates the economy of our city is still experiencing where we've come out, I believe, out of the bottom of the trough, but we haven't reached anything close to where we had experienced. But I appreciate the reports. One challenge I find in some of the reports, and I have chatted with administration about this, and I want to bring it to council's attention, is when we move to the new accounting software, the new software the city's going to be operating on, it will fill in a lot of the blanks because a lot of this is manually dealt with. And I want to reassure the council and the taxpayers that I spent a couple hours just going through accounts payable, and the week before I left administration some information. They filled in some blanks that were nice. That the information is gathered, but because it's being pulled from various reports, sometimes when you cut and paste things, it doesn't always show up. So if someone sees an account that's been paid and there's no name to it, because we were removing the appropriate information, it wasn't removed intentionally, it may not have copied over. So I know administration is always open to any comments that we have, but they had no problem locating the answers. But a lot of bit of legwork with the new computer system that we're all waiting patiently for, including administration very much. We'll be able to give them the tools to do their job much better. Certainly, I think it's important, the notes that you add, that gives us some idea of what we're seeing, and I think we're seeing a decline. Again, not jumping ahead too far, decline in water usage indicates we've had a wet summer, and we've also had people spending less money spending on watering their grass and things like that, and those kind of things is evident at the landfill, all sorts of things in the numbers that we've been presented here. So without going through every individual number, I don't have a whole lot of questions, but I'll leave it to council if there's any questions. Councilor Buckingham.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, it's almost fun to go through 171 pages of these things. I thoroughly enjoy it, as much as Councilor Torreson, but I didn't really get it. So just the one question that came up out of this, from page 64 of said document, a lot of credit card expenses with no real description of what those are for. Now, they may be being addressed in that new software that comes forward with a little more detail on some of those things. But I mean, for us, and this council's direction has been transparency, and you can see these documents publicly posted. But there's not a lot of detail there in that realm of things. And of course, as we get another presentation of the P-card system today, perhaps that answers the question as well. But pertaining to page 64 of those, you can see those, and just wonder, is that standard practice, whether there's more detail on those?
Thank you, Your Worship, through the Councilor Buckingham. We do ask anyone who creates a purchase order, that's where the description comes from, that is printed on the accounts payable report, to make like a clear, standardized kind of description. But we will continue to work and try and make that better.
Yeah, if you look, not to be right now, but if you look at that, page 64 in there, you can probably see what I'm talking about clearly. Yeah, time to do so.
And we can definitely get you some clear descriptions on that page.
I'm not sure I received the same email from Councilor Torreson. I went to page 64 and I cannot identify the concern.
Yeah, I find the same. I did look at the credit card and I didn't write down the pages because
There is a page, it's on a different page, I believe, where there was one where it didn't show what it was for, which would be probably a slip up, but it was way back in June, so I don't think that's happening anymore. Hopefully, we have a PO system and we have all of their receipts attached and explanations for every expenditure on those today as I speak. That's the new system, and once we have the new financial package that's being developed, everything will be there. You'll have all of the information. But right now it's a cut and paste, and sometimes if it's not typed in or something, it's not there. So, but if there's a question, and that's what my response would be to any counselor or any member of the public that wants to ask a question, we can go back and look up any expenditure and we can tell you what it was for. So unfortunately, sometimes it gets slipped up.
Is it fair to say that this is going to be a lot easier under this new system? Should we move to that P-card system for that type of thing? Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement.
And of course, we're talking about, like you referenced, Rick, these are previous. They're a little bit older, so it's not like it happened yesterday. Thank you.
We are paying attention to what's happening, I can assure you.
I truly believe that. And as I look at again, it's taken from various things because our expense account doesn't, as an example, I can use my own expenses that were paid in that month. It details meals, but it gives you a lump sum. I It doesn't detail the detail the expense account has, but that's attached to the purchase order, which has been referenced. And the purchase order has 4 line items for the 4 major items on the expense account. So getting the devil in the details is there. It's available if people want to look at it. Certainly, from that perspective, and I think as I've looked at these more and more, it's certainly at the time when that PO is created, whatever description is given to that individual who creates the PO, that's what they use. And sometimes we simply refers to an invoice number, but that invoice is attached to the purchase order. The documentation is there. What was on that invoice? It may have been nuts and bolts, to hardware, to lumber, to some supply that the city purchased, but to drill it into that detail, and hopefully we can get to that in the next step between the new software package as well as if the city council approves the P cards, we'll be able to provide that information down to that great level of detail that someone may desire to see. I think that in bulk, because of in general, people believe that it's being accounted for. That's what our job as council is, to give some oversight, and we follow that with the auditor and so forth. So, any other questions?
Yeah, just looking here, Councilor Torres' question reference page 64 of that, but correct, I don't see anything on page 64. Yeah, I've just quickly been trying to find it, I haven't yet, but we'll talk about that later.
We will indeed. Any other questions from council? I think that anyone that in the public that has that time to sit through and wade through 171 pages will have a true understanding of what we operate on a monthly basis. And people will often ask, well, why are we writing checks back to people? We take deposits for various city activities. If they, for one reason or another, the program gets canceled, those checks get cut, and that adds to our list. So the volume of transactions in a month is overwhelming in our city. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Brooke. Now we'll move to 6.3.
Yeah, Adele will be presenting the project.
Okay. Manager of our capital assets, Adele, is going to provide an overview of the operating forecast for 2017.
Welcome, Adele. Thank you.
Thank you. So the objective and the purpose of this report was really to provide City Council and administration with a highlight of what our potential financial position might be at December 31st. And when we refer to financial position, we're really talking about our accumulated surplus. So our finance team developed this forecast based on our current state as of June 30th, and then we added on the budget with management's assumptions and adjustments to come to a forecasted amount. So the variances outlined reflect an impact of management's decisions as well as external factors that are really beyond management's control. Truly, the overarching goal of the forecast was to unveil areas where the city might be exposed to financial weakness so that we can allow enough time to address these issues.
Any questions? As I was riding back in an airplane, I had time to review this for a couple hours again, and I appreciate certainly the highlights that you've given us from both revenue and expenditures by breaking it down, saying that we have a potential to be above or below. Certainly we are down on income, but we're also down on expenses a little bit, which I appreciate to city administration. It's a little finer finish than we'd like, but I understand that there's factors that are outside of the control of this council, outside of administration. The worldly factors continued that way. As I had mentioned, this was also gave me some ideas of where we had received things in our city from the less revenue from water and sewer, because there's just a little bit less water being consumed and things like that. From that perspective, so I certainly appreciate that input. For everyone that's not seeing this, joining us by live stream, getting into the details, we're down potentially a 5% revenue variance, but we're down by 3% on expense variance. So it tightens us up a little bit, but we still show a positive at the end of the year, which I appreciate. Councilor Buckman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just again, I echo the comments from Councilor Torrance, and it's an excellent document, well done. And I think we all are very pleased. I thought that was a great read and a great way to help us. It's the end of August now. We're going into 2018 budget shortly, right? It's it seems like we just finished the 17 and away we go again, right? So this will help that a lot. It was really well done.
Thank you.
Councilor Baker.
Thank you, Your Worship. I echo those comments. It's those big numbers. We're talking 77 million instead of 84 million. That's what really counts. The little numbers count, but that's what really counts. And I really appreciated your overview of where we're at and your best guess. I mean, we're all reaching out and saying, we think this is what's going to happen, but we got to realize that time will tell. But I think this is really an important document, those big numbers to just say, you know, we're up $1 million or down $1 million. We got to watch this, we got to watch that. Because I, like everyone else in this room, we have an internal audit system we're working on. And to go through every one of those numbers and ask a question, we'd be here for 2 weeks. That's before we got January done. So please do what you're doing, because to me, I'm not the accountant, like our learned friend here, but we can read the numbers, and it just really gives you even a good or a bad or a queasy feeling. It doesn't matter, but it gives you a real grip, I think, on where we sit. So whatever you're doing, I really appreciated that executive summary of this report. So thank you.
It was very clear, thank you.
Yeah.
It was very clear and concise, and I think it will give us some questions to ask administration. As an example, I look at the storm drainage. Due to the time that the bylaw was introduced and it was actually applied, left a deficit of $473,000 that was budgeted for to be received that isn't there. So certainly as we budget for next year and we're looking at programs and events and activities, certainly timing is critical, because to simply budget it saying it's starting in January, we know subject to the budget and process and procedure, activities may not kick off in the first month. We'll have to ensure that those assumptions are translated into the numbers. Any other comments or questions?
Just Your Worship and Council, I just like to point out that some of the assumptions were based on several weeks ago, and there have been a few changes. And for example, we've sold more property than we are estimating. You never know that that's going to happen until it happens. So we're very pleased about that. And so there are some other good news items that will be showing up in the next projection, I'm sure. So it's better news. We know where we are. We have a starting point, and this is great work. I just wanted to commend the staff and finance for pulling all this together. It's a big job, and but all of us on the executive, when we read it, we were impressed, very impressed, and we're thankful for the work they did.
Indeed, thank you very much. And share that with the rest of the finance team, please.
Yes.
Very much. Just one question then, will we see these quarterly? Is that the expectation?
Thank you, Your Worship. I can answer that. This report is an annual report. It's a 6-month forecast. So every June, well, at the end of every June, you should expect to see this following at our next GBC or council meeting. May I also add that we had a very beautiful design document that was prepared that will be available for the public. The content is the exact same. It's just much more aesthetically pleasing, so that will be available for the public.
Excellent. I think that as we've heard from the public, they appreciate the information that's provided, and certainly all efforts to make it understandable and accessible is, I think, well received in the community. So thank you very much. Councilor McNeil.
Thank you, Worship. That brings up something I've been thinking about for a while. Again, it's something I think that we can do a great job on. The document's great. You've done something. You're going to make it aesthetically pleasing for the public to see. And maybe a question for our communications team, more than anything. You know, we do these things, and do we put enough fanfare around getting them out to the public so the public knows? So we've stated today that it's going to come, it's going to be available. You know, how are we getting that word out there that yes, now this is available? You know, here, come get it here. You can find it online here. What's our plan around, you know, driving the bus on these things and making sure that they're out there when they need to be?
So this is a bit of a new exercise for us as a group, but even in our executive discussions, we've talked about after it presented to council to have it up on our website, to share it out there through social media, and try to put some context behind it so our public can understand what's going on. Excuse me. And like Adele mentioned, the polished document, we'll call it, is maybe a bit more like digestible for the average reader, for the casual reader. So that would be first step, but perhaps in the future we look at some advanced promotion or a more advanced communications campaign. This time around, we'll do our best to let the public know that it's there on our website for viewing.
Yeah, we go back to the strap plan document that went out, and it was condensed down and an easy, nice read for people to get to see. And it gives everybody the option to see what this council's priorities are in that plan. This gives the public the accountability, the transparency, the foresight that they're looking forward to. So it's an opportunity for us to practice our communication skills and make sure that those things are out there, because I think, you know, being ahead on these things as opposed to reactive is something that we need to do. And when these documents are there, we need to do everything, in my opinion, we need to do everything we can to make sure that those documents are easily accessible by everybody who would like to see them and know that they're accessible when they are. Just a comment from my side of things.
Good point, Council. I think that's, at the end of the day, we can provide it as best as we can. We give it to the public to engage it. And as many fashions and avenues, be it the internet, be it a hard copy here at City Hall, at the Service Sports Center, places where we know people will be congesting and gathering, it'd be a good opportunity to have them have a chance to pick it up and even just sit down and take a look at it. They may not take it with them, just put it back down, but at least they've had a chance to review it. So I think that as many avenues as we can present information today, and the technology we have, there's many options. And I think our communications team will continue to take charge of that and move forward with it. Any other comments? Thank you very much, Annette.
Thank you.
Moving to agenda item number 6.4, 2017 utility summary.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, I have to clarify, it is an information. I noticed that pending does say request for decision, but it is an information package. It's the second of 4 reports for the 2017 utility summary. And we would like the recommendation the council received as a utility summary. The background is that this is the report sent from the landfill, water treatment plant, and wastewater. And I pass it back to you for your consideration.
Thank you. Again, Councilman Rowe.
I just had a quick question. E-waste. What is the e-waste? Is that just environmental waste or?
Electronic.
Oh, electronic waste, okay, computers and that sort of thing.
I believe that's
Perfect.
what it is.
Yeah, that makes sense because there is nothing like that. Okay, thank you. It wasn't quite clear, so.
Council, any other comments or questions? Again, what I noticed was in some cases, a decrease in some of the items that have come into the city, landfill, and numbers, the treated water consumption is down, a reflection of a few things. And certainly we've had a fairly relatively wet summer in comparison, so the last couple months, and I think the waste, when I look at the landfill numbers, it looked like we've had less construction in the community, so a little less waste going to the landfill, which is reflected there as well. And even garbage in the month of June, and I suspect when July and August shows up, it'll be down because people are vacationing and things like that. Councilor Baker.
Your Worship, I've asked this question in the past. I refer to sump waste. I was under the understanding we didn't accept sump waste because of the hydrocarbons.
Thank you, Alderman Baker. Yes, we do accept some waste. The loads that are on contract are tested, so we know what's in them. And we have a sump pit in the back corner of the landfill, and it goes from there to the sewage plant.
Okay, you test every load.
I'm not sure about every load, but they are tested before
There
they're
used to be a
accepted
concern
initially.
of waste in the sump pits and the car washes and things like that, the type of waste, and but you are spot testing if nothing else. Eh?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, good, thank you.
Councilor Baker.
Thank you, Worship. I think we've talked about this before, but really interesting in the monthly lab data in the wastewater treatment facility again, which I guess is on page 7 of this. Basically, it's halved in the number, the acceptable limit in the last couple of months. Well, in January it was 30.2, we're down to 14.3. Can anybody tell me what the actual reasoning for that, going from what looks like a fairly large fail to a passing grade in the effluent quality in May and June? Is there a reason for why it got so much better so quickly?
If I may, Karen Dell, who's just the senior manager, I'll ask her to come answer that question.
Welcome, Chair.
The council and your worship.
Yeah, so 4 months of red effluent numbers to 2 months of green.
I think he's referring to the BODs. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, typically we do expect an improved, I guess, sorry. Yeah, typically we do expect an improved results in terms of BOD around these months, just because we have open area lagoons and it's always exposed to the environment. And typically in the months of May and April, that is when the temperatures go up and it helps with our treatment process. So that is where we are expecting better numbers for BODs and TSSs.
Yeah, I say it's also on the TSS level too. It's also coming to the acceptable. So it's the algae in the summer able to work better, the heat and cold cycles and so on and so forth. So just thought it was interesting. I know we talked about it in January and we were given the number that was going to come down for that reason. But as we look at these numbers and they come out, I think it's good for the public to know why. Because it may have been missed somewhere else. So because it looks like a pretty impressive gain from January to June, but mostly environmental reasons.
Mostly environmental, yeah.
Mother Nature does cooperate with us occasionally. This is one of those times when, once the ice leaves the ponds and the bacteria get full exposure and a little extra heat. So hopefully July, August, into September, maybe even in October, our numbers will be on the green side rather than on the red side.
And that's one of the biggest difference between a mechanical plant and what we have right now, because in a mechanical plant, you are able to control a lot of the parameters, so you are able to control the effluent that goes out. But in terms of what we have now, it's basically leaving up to Mother Nature. She cooperates.
Any other questions regarding any matters regarding utilities? We can simply accept that as a report. We don't need to have a formal exception. Okay. Thank you very much for everyone that was involved in putting that report together. And I think that's a good summary to, again, help reinforce the items that we continue to see being asked about. And then we'll get into our wastewater treatment plant next on the next agenda item. So with that, we'll move on to 6.5, the engineering services regarding the wastewater treatment plant lagoon desludging.
Thank you, Your Worship. As you're aware, June 12, 2017, you got approved for a $3 million desludging package for the sewage treatment plant. It is very intense, and we have obtained the services of ISL, who has been helping us to begin here, to take over and look after the project for us, just to do with all the details and stuff that's required. We're meeting with the wastewater agency on Thursday, and they'll be helping out setting up the perimeters and all the regulatory requirements that are involved with that. So we've asked them to come on board with this at the same time.
Certainly, I guess ISL is one company that's got an extensive knowledge because we've employed them previously on contracts throughout the city, but certainly they were the contract that was awarded by this council, I believe, to start the first leg of the new upgrade to oversee it. So certainly they're very aware of our situation, and it's not something new to them. Certainly time is one of the challenges that we face because this desludging will need to occur before complete freeze up. And time is going to have to be looked at. And it's, I know as the council, I believe, we really tried to go to ensuring that we've got the best bid for the best dollar spent. But in the case that, in this case, we have a challenge that from the perspective of time. We know the knowledge that they have is extensive, and to bring them up to speed to someone else and to go through the process, I would look to administration, we're looking at 2 to 3 months to basically let a contract out at this time to find someone to
step up to this engineering service. So,
Yes, and to that, Your Worship, we are currently under contract with ISL. They're our owner's engineer for the wastewater treatment plant project. It makes most sense to continue with the work that we've done over the past few years.
thank you. So, any questions or comments from councils? I look around. Information is fairly straightforward, and I think that at the end of the day, this is a regulatory, we're going to be working with the regulatory body, being the Water Security Agency, and ensuring that we follow the code and the law, because we do not, I believe, at this time want to venture outside that any more than we have to. So we'll stay the course and go from there. So in essence, this will need to come back to the next council meeting for approval, I would imagine. A resolution will be presented with more information, or the same information.
Your Worship, we're moving forward. We have approval on the project, and we are wanting to get on and get the RFP. So it was under my direction that we secure ISL. ISL is working already. So it's just under my approval, but we wanted you to know first before it was made public and where we go. So.
Thank you, City Manager. Appreciate that, and certainly that's the procurement process being followed, because it's with it is signing authority. And I appreciate the information being brought forward so that if someone does see activity, they know, and it's been addressed in the public. Councillor Buckingham, and then I'll follow up, Councillor Pickard.
Thank you, Worship. You know, as we work towards, I saw the glimmer in your eye when we talked about mechanical treatment. There it is again. And we're working towards that. And this project, I want to state one more time, this is a project in good faith. This is a project that shows the governments and everybody else that we're willing to work with what we have to get to that point eventually where we can move forward. So, this one to me is a super important project for long-term decisions, right? It's going to make everything a little bit better in the interim, but show good faith by the city. So, good on you guys.
Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree with us going ahead with this project, while the weather's still what it is. Desludging, in my limited knowledge, is a maintenance activity that has to happen, whether it's on a 10-year cycle or a 5-year cycle. I can't remember. I remember the last time we went through this, for those that were around, we went on forever. I know Director Dave knows that for sure. So ISL has been looking after this plant for some time, and if anybody has the in-depth knowledge, I would have to believe that they are the people that have that in-depth knowledge, and they should just keep moving forward with the projects, and the sooner the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you very much. Moving to item 6.6, Alberta tax enforcement. City Manager. Welcome, Pat.
Here we go. Thank you, Your Worship. Introduce yourself. My name is Kyle Sattler. I'm the property tax clerk for the City of Westminster. Basically, we're bringing this information to council. It will be brought to a September 11th council meeting for approval. So these reserve bids need to be approved by council. The eventual objective is that the city is prepared to conduct a public auction at City Hall on Wednesday, November 22nd for the listed parcels of land, unless the tax arrears are paid in full or a payment arrangement is entered into with the property owner prior to that date.
Council, any questions or comments for Kyle? Councillor Buckingham.
Thank you, Worship. Being our first year at this, there's 8 properties that are on this. Is that a typical number? Are we up, are we down from the previous year? Just for my own information, I was curious.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Buckingham. Last year, I believe there was about 9 or 10 properties. So as for the current list that you have received, the last property on there has paid their tax arrears. So we are actually down to 7, and we are working with the property owners to reduce that list further.
I know we caught the tail end of this coming in as this council last year, a few discussions on ones that were there. And I know that there was a lot of efforts on the city side of things for making arrangements with these property owners to get these things done. As this is something we'd like to avoid at all costs, right? So I think it's again worth noting that the city works really hard to make arrangements with these property owners to, this is the last ditch effort. And when was the last time it came to actually auctioning any properties off?
We've never actually held a public auction.
Precisely. So nice work.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Baker?
Well, Your Worship, I echo the comments from Councillor Buckingham. This is the very last thing we want to do. We all know economic times are what they are, but we also know the law is what it is. So, over the years, I was going to say that I've never known a city take properties back in the last 25 years at least, or maybe 30 years. And hopefully we don't have to do it this time. And I hope all your work goes for naught, that we cancel this meeting in about 2 weeks, Your Worship, or give or take. But unfortunately, people have to realize that it's the law and you have to follow the laws. And it's the last thing we want to do. So, thank you, and you know that you have more pleasant things to do than this if you have time to do it. Thank you.
Good point, Councillor. I think that point taken that I believe we will end up likely seeing this on the agenda on September 11th, but we will hope by November 21st that this will be settled. So I suspect it'll end up on council. We'll be asked for a decision, very likely, but based on history, arrangements have been able to be made, and certainly I know that Kyle and the finance team will work diligently to ensure that individuals and people will have the opportunity to make some sort of arrangement with the city. Because as you stated, and I think that publicly this council and no city wishes to repossess property or have it sold to clear up the taxes, that hopefully some measure of structure can be organized to ensure that taxes are paid for the individual, the property owner, as well as for the city. Because I'm afraid we are in the same boat that we can't go without taxes. That's part of the operational portion of the city. So, any other comments or questions? Thank you very much.
I'd just like to make a comment, just for clarification. There's 2 ways to deal with tax arrears properties. One is our request or put it out to tender. The other way is an auction, and what we're proposing here is an auction with a reserve bid. And the other thing I'd like to clarify is that when we do receive a bid and we sell the properties, we take out the owed taxes, and the previous owner or the bank, whoever has title, receives the balance of the amount. So we don't take the property back per se. Okay? So we simply need, it's our way of collecting previous taxes.
Thank you, City Manager, for that. I think that's a point well taken. That we're not simply just taking the property that's being expropriated, or however some people might term it. It's simply we have to receive our funds and then dispose of any remaining funds to the owner.
If I may, Your Worship, we'd like the owner to make that decision.
We would. You're absolutely right, Councillor. I think that at the end of the day, that is a decision for the owner. And certainly our administration will work diligently to ensure that all options are exhausted before we call a public auction of City Hall.
That's why we heard this big gun.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much, Kyle.
Thanks, Kyle.
Item number 6.7, purchasing card program.
Yes, so at the last council meeting, we brought forward a request to approve the purchasing card. Council sent it back to administration, so we're bringing it back with the background information. I've asked Brooke Fair to come back up and be here to answer any of your questions. There's a presentation before you. And we will be bringing, once we get through this process and all the questions are answered, we'll bring it back to the future council meeting for final approval.
Welcome back, Brooke.
Thank you. So we just put a little presentation to provide you guys with some more information on the purchasing card program. The first thing we wanted to do was to provide you with an overview of our current credit card process and the internal controls that are currently in place. So when we look at requesting credit cards for city staff, the request has to come from the employee supervisor to the card administrator, which is an employee in the finance department. So employees are not able to request their own credit cards. The supervisor requests the card limit, and then the card administrator orders the card from the credit card company and is also the one to receive the credit card in the mail, and then the card administrator hands the credit card to the employee that will be receiving the credit card, and at that time the employee is told about safeguarding their credit card and only using the card for business purposes. Later on, if the supervisor would like to see a change to an employee's credit card, a change in the limit or the card canceled, something to that effect, the card administrator can log on to a web portal and make those changes online, and those changes become effective immediately. And that's something that we have in our current system and something that will be in place in the new purchasing card program as well. The city's spending is driven by projects and programs and the activities that are approved within the annual budget. And we also have our procurement policy, which outlines allowable spending limits for various levels of staff. Purchasing has to conform to the purchasing policy and the approved budget. And so when an employee makes a purchase using their credit card, they have to ensure that they obtain a receipt for their purchase and keep the receipt for the future card reconciliation for the month. When we receive the goods, we don't always receive a packing slip with every good or service that we purchase, so we ensure that the employee and the employee's immediate supervisor verifies that we've received the goods. At the end of the month, when the credit card statement cycle is finished, every card holder is emailed a copy of their credit card statement from the credit card company. And then in addition to that, our accounts payable staff are emailed a corporate credit card statement, which outlines all of the purchases on every card for the month. And with the web portal, the card administrators can also log in and reprint any statements at any time, any recent transactions, that sort of thing. So once the employee has their card statement, they have to perform their card reconciliation. So they look at all the transactions on their statement and compare them to the receipts that they have from all of their purchases for the month. And once they verify that all of their purchases are on the statement and have reconciled their card, they have to fill out an employee credit card payment form, and that signifies that the employee is in agreement with all of the charges that are on their credit card, that all of the charges are valid city expenses, that we've received the purchases, and that they have all the supporting documentation in place. And all the supporting documentation is then forwarded to their supervisor along with a purchase order, which shows the coding distribution for the transactions. When the manager gets the credit card information from their employees, they do look through the credit card statements, the supporting documentation, which includes the receipts and the packing slips, if any, the credit card payment form, and the purchase order. And they're looking to make sure that the transactions have been coded correctly, that the purchases were valid city expenses, that the city has received all of the goods and services. All the supporting documentation is present, and they've signed off on the credit card form. Once they verified all this information, they sign the purchase order and the credit card payment form, and that signifies to finance that the manager has approved all the transactions and are okay with finance releasing payment for the credit card statement. And then the credit card packages are all forwarded to finance. So when finance gets the credit card packages, we scan them to ensure proper document retention in our department. And the accounts payable performs a similar review to the manager. So at this point, the card holder has done reconciliation, the manager has also looked at everything, and finance has done another review. Once finance has completed their review, they're also looking to make sure that the appropriate signatures are in place and that they're signed by someone who is on the approved signing authority list, and then enters the transactions into our accounting system. Finance also reconciles all of the card statements to the corporate card statement that they received by email. And once the corporate card statement is balanced, the accounts payable clerk will notify the municipal accountant that the payment can be released in an upcoming check run. We do weekly check runs, and our current credit card provider is paid through EFT, and if we went to a purchasing card program, it would be paid through EFT as well. Once the municipal account has selected all of the vendors that will be paid through EFT, an EFT file is submitted to the bank through a web portal. Then all of the invoices and the EFT reports and all the check stubs and checks are given to an accounting clerk, and the accounting clerk verifies that the check amounts and vendors are correct and they match to all the invoices. And then they file the EFT reports and check stubs with the credit card statements and other invoices as a way of tracking which invoices have been paid. And then once the accounting clerk has finished their work, then one of the managers from the finance department can log into the bank's web portal, and they perform a final review of the EFT file that's been submitted to the bank. And if everything's in order, then one of the finance managers will approve the release of the funds. So it's always the municipal accountant that submits the file and an accounting manager that is releasing the payment, so those two functions are always segregated. And then in terms of reporting to council, once a month council receives the accounts payable report, which shows all those transactions that have been paid for in the month. So with a new purchasing card program, there'll be some enhancements to the internal controls that we already have, mostly in terms of managers reviewing and approving transactions. So managers can review all of the transactions electronically. It's just a more efficient process and more timely process. And when it comes to management approval, the approvals are done electronically as well, and your electronic signature is tied to your computer login, so there's no risk of forged signature that currently exists with signed paper copies of purchase orders. And once the manager approves transactions, they can't be changed, so the employee cannot log back into the system and change the coding or something like that on the transactions. The purchasing cards would provide for some brand new internal controls that a traditional credit card program cannot provide. And the ones that we're most excited about are the preventative card controls. With a traditional credit card, we can't limit the types of purchases that an employee can make. All we can do is, if we see an inappropriate purchase made on a credit card, we can use progressive discipline or something after the fact. But with P-cards, you can put some preventative controls in place to prevent an inappropriate purchase from happening in the first place. And one of the ways they can do that is through the merchant category restrictions. And so when it comes to travel, for instance, if you want employees to be able to rent a car or purchase an airline ticket, but you don't want them to be able to purchase a train ticket, then you can allow the car rental and the airplane, but not the rail ticket. You can also change the merchant categories through the online web portal, and any changes that you make become effective immediately. With the P-cards, you can also set individual transaction limits, whereas with the traditional credit card, you only have your monthly transaction limit as a control. You can also set restrictions on the number of transactions that occur in a specific period of time. The other preventative control is predetermined expiration dates. So if you were hiring a temporary employee, for example, you can set the card expiration date to be the same as the contract employee's last day of employment with the city. We'll also have more integration with our new financial system. So employees can log onto the web portal and code their transactions electronically. And that'll be a lot more efficient process than we currently have. Currently, employees or managers have to manually write the coding on an invoice, type it into a PO, and then the accounts payable clerk has to type it into our accounting system. With a purchasing card system, that information will only have to be entered once. And while you're entering your coding, the system will also run a check to make sure that you're entering a valid code. It won't let you type in an account code that doesn't exist. We'll also be able to upload transactions directly to our accounting software once they've been approved by finance. And again, it just reduces the likelihood of human key errors. And then the last set of new internal controls would be the card monitoring. So through payment analytics, the city can set custom rules, and each transaction would go through a review of these rules. And if the transaction looked abnormal or out of policy, then you get an email, the card administrator would get an email saying that there is potential card misuse, and then the card administrator can follow up with the employee and the employee supervisor. And then just some additional information, I guess. One of the things we've asked for is an increase in the credit limit from $150,000 to $625,000. And we've asked this for a couple of reasons. One, currently not everybody that's responsible for purchasing has their own credit card. We would like to get everybody that's responsible for purchasing their own credit card, just to improve accountability of purchasing. If everybody has their own credit card, we can immediately identify who made the purchase and who's responsible for the purchase. The other reason that we would like to see an increase in the credit limit is so that we can move away from house accounts. That does present the greatest risk of misappropriation or fraud. So if we can get everybody their own card, there's no need for house accounts anymore. We can shut those down and everybody can make purchases through their P cards. We're also in the process of developing some new policies and procedures. So drafting a purchasing card policy and procedure which outlines proper card use and consequences of misuse. And going forward, finance would be responsible for educating and training every employee on purchasing cards. And that would just ensure everyone receives consistent training. And prior to anybody receiving a purchasing card, we would ask them to sign a contract which states they understand appropriate card use and consequences of misuse. So thank you for listening. That's the end of my presentation. If you guys have any questions.
Councilor Monroe, then we consider.
Just to comment, it's a very good presentation. The information you provided us with comparisons for the P card versus the credit card, just because I didn't have that before. Definitely, obviously, all the policies and procedures and security measures, it's definitely, I think, a benefit, in my opinion. Very efficient, and that it will coincide with our current accounting software is a huge benefit. And so that you know who actually purchased the purchase. I can come and borrow your card at any time, but who bought it? You or me? You're the one that's responsible, right? So I think having that option of everyone having their own individualized card, having to sign a contract, and having to reconcile with your own statement at the end of the month is definitely a good policy to have in place. So I definitely thank you for the information. It was very good and very thorough.
Councilor Baker.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the presentation. I know a lot more about purchase cards today than I did 2 weeks ago. I didn't even know about them 2 weeks ago. So thank you very much for the information. Trying to go through it and just read it and totally get a real grip on it, there's probably questions that will come up. But I think what's really, there's one real negative and one real positive. One real positive, we got a lot of control. The negative is not detrimental necessarily, but it's his business of coding. I've worked in industry in my whole life, and people cannot figure out what code goes on what invoice. And you're gonna have to figure out a way to get that coding sorted out, because unless you're near the top and you're familiar with the coding system and you're close to the project budget, they just get out of whack. I'm just telling you that because I've seen it so many times. And so I don't know how you're going to prevent that and make sure you get the right coding, but I'm sure you'll figure it out. So that is really the question. What I really liked about it, there's no liability for stolen cards. That was one real plus, because when you get 50, or I don't know how many cards out there, you know, there's always that risk. And I did talk to a couple of people who were pretty well versed, I thought, in this particular system. And some of them felt it was the thing that was coming big time, not just today, but throughout the world of history. The one thing that I was trying to pin down, for example, say in public works, and you had people that deal with mechanical parts, you could assign, say they were dealing with 2 or 3 different part suppliers. You could limit that card, if I read this right, for those 2 or 3 part suppliers, or 10. And that's what I thought was really a good thing. They don't work at the shop garage or anything like that.
Okay, if you say it again.
Only if you get lucky.
That's one huge benefit, Councilor Baker, is that the city staff, through finance and through an appropriate card administrator, will be responsible. So if any department has a staff member that for some reason moves to a different job and starts to use different vendors, can simply easily be adjusted in-house relatively quickly to allow them to make those purchases at vendors that traditionally may have not serviced the water department but now service the recreation team and things like that. It's the value.
It's a control, and I thought that was really a strong feature. So thanks for the presentation.
Councilor Buckingham.
Thank you, Worship. I know when you look at these numbers and you go, wow, that's a large request as far as changing the credit limit. I know we briefly discussed it before. We're going to run a lot more purchases through this than where we usually didn't before, right? There was mention of basically, I call it a point system, a rebate system. By using these B-card systems, there was cost savings associated with, you know, just like buying so much stuff on your credit card and so many travel points or whatever. The one thing I didn't see in there, can somebody talk to me a little bit more about that? Because it was mentioned that there was some cost savings realized by using these cards in a system like that.
Thank you, Worship, to Councilor Buckingham. So the credit card does offer a rebate, and then the new purchasing card would offer a rebate as well. Some of the cost savings will come from the fact that with purchasing cards, there are no annual card fees, and with credit cards, they can be $75 to $95. The percentage that you would get back from a credit card versus a P card would be fairly close. So that's good.
I just might add that when you're dealing with the suppliers of these P cards, they really don't want to publicize what the rebates might be. So we're a bit hesitant to indicate, but the rebate and the discount that we are looking at will more than offset our costs of any additional costs that we might have incurred by having to train people and so forth.
Yeah, no, I expected that, but didn't expect necessarily the numbers for those reasons. But just to bring it up, that is something that is also there that wasn't actually presented in the presentation for the public or anybody to see. So.
Good question, Councillor. I think that some of the other information presented in the package outside this slide presentation that's attached. To refer that there is no cost to get a P card for any employee, whereas every credit card the city currently has, there's at least a $75 to $95 cost. So that'll eliminate that cost completely. That'll be a cost that will no longer be there. Any other questions from council? I think that, again, thank you, Brooke. I think that gave a very good comparison of where we see some improvements over from the P card, going away from the credit card. There's still existing work being done for the policy, and I think that's a very important step that Councillor Torreson wanted to ensure that we're not stepping from one fire into another. And I think that by the time this rolls out, it'll be very clear. Employees signing for their cards on an individual basis and being documented. I think that's very important, the training that's going to come along with it, because there will be a change and there'll be a process that has to follow. And it may have a little bump or two to it, but it's definitely going to give us much better control, certainly at the administration level of the purchasing, because I'm sure, as anyone that's ever had a company credit card, can I borrow your card? I have to run and get something, and it's either yourself get up or you send the employee with the card. So the security basically does not exist at that point. Once you hand your credit card over, you have faith in your employees. We have our employees, but in the same token, it's just one of the challenges where the P card will be assigned to every employee if they're required. And as some may not get it, and then shortly afterwards realize, yeah, we do need a P card, we can do that very quickly. So I think that has some added value from that perspective, that there'll be accountability within the staff themselves even more than simply relying on bringing back a receipt to your boss for his credit card or her credit card. With that, thank you very much, Brooke. On the agenda, we move to number 7, which is governance and priority matters. And 7.1, bylaw 2-2010, combative sports bylaw.
Yes, this is a legislative service matter, and I'll turn this matter over to City Clerk Bravo.
Thank you, City Manager. Through the Mayor to the City Council. This item is being brought forward as information only today, and it's information relating to the repealing of bylaw 2-2010 of the combative sports bylaw. And administration will be proposing that bylaw be repealed at a future council meeting. Some of the background is bylaw 2-2010 was adopted in 2010 and created a local commission to govern and allow for professional combative sport events within the city of Woodminster. Hosting combative sport events places a significant responsibility on the city of Woodminster and the commission. It has also been extremely difficult in attracting people to participate on the commission, as there are currently no members. Since the passing of bylaw 2-2010, the province of Saskatchewan has approved the Athletics Commission Act and created an Athletics Commission in Saskatchewan. There is no provincial commission in Alberta, although there has been calls for it, and I understand that they are seeking to create one. If the bylaw is repealed, professional combative sporting events will only be allowed in facilities located in Saskatchewan. And it is very important to note that the repeal of this bylaw deals only with professional combative sports, not amateur events. Amateur events are regulated by separate bodies. And as I said, we'll be bringing this forward to a future council meeting. We want to bring this information forward in the GBC so the council is aware that we'll be bringing it forward, and the public will be as well.
Thank you, City Clerk. Any questions, comments? Councilor Buckingham.
Thank you, Worship. So our job as City Council is to be educated on these types of things, and I am not. So I went out and tried to educate myself a little bit further on this topic with people that I trust that do know these types of things. So some information maybe for administration, just to maybe get a little bit more information on. For the Alberta side of things, I was informed that there is what's called a roving commission based out of Lethbridge, Alberta, that can come into a city, and the promoter who brings this into the city is then responsible for paying all the fees of the doctors, the officials, all these types of things. So I was told that they could bring an Alberta side event in using that Lethbridge Commission. So something I thought we should probably look into to see if there was some validity to that. Second of all, two of these individuals have put their names forward to say, hey, if we had a local commission, that I would certainly put my name forward to be the president and the vice president of this commission, or however the structure may be. So there are some local interest people who would be looking at putting this forward. But just a couple of pieces of information for you guys to consider before we move too much further on this. I would like to know more about this Lethbridge Commission.
Absolutely, we can bring that forward, and it is important to understand that even if we bring a commission from the outside to manage the event, it is still the city's responsibility. The city still retains all the liability associated with the event.
Councilor Baker.
Thank you, Worship. A few years ago when this was introduced, it wasn't that easy. There was a lot of people that were concerned, and I was one of them, because of the liability of the city. The city of Edmonton right now is probably walking on mulberries based on the latest issue in the world of professional sport and that world, the fight that fellow lost his life. There is a lot of responsibility attached to this kind of activity, or some of these activities, I'm not saying all. And I think we've got to walk very carefully and really know what we're doing if we want to be in charge. And it said in your report that there's nobody on the commission now, they all resigned. There were some people who were pretty excited to get on that commission when it was first introduced. It didn't take long till reality set in, and maybe this isn't the best place to be. And that's a personal choice, I guess. But I really think that we've got to be very careful if we want to be in this business and hold the taxpayer responsible if we're sued. And it seems they always go after the deep pockets. So, for all it's worth, there's been a lot of debate.
Councilor Beckman.
Thank you, Worship. And that actually provided me the other point I wanted to bring up from Councilor Baker's comments there. You know, is there positive potential for the city from a revenue standpoint for local business, hotels, restaurants, that type of thing, to keep that commission, or to have a local commission and then have somebody actively possibly pursuing bringing events like this to town? Is it a positive business move? Does the community feel that this is something like hosting the games or like, having those types of events? Does that boost the local economy too? So as we consider this, I'm looking at it from a real broad stroke here and thinking of all the angles I possibly can, right? So just to bring that up from a distance and perspective.
Absolutely, Councilor, you raised another point that I hadn't considered from that perspective, because I don't think we've had any activity under this bylaw or any participation for some time. So it's sort of been there and laying there. I'd asked the city clerk, you referred to amateur events under a different venue, and not to this bylaw. Is there another bylaw that regulates amateur events?
No, because amateur events are regulated by a different commission. The city is not required to regulate them, such as if an event was to occur in Saskatchewan, which could today. This bylaw would be repugnant because the Saskatchewan does have its own commission bylaw now, so it would trump the current bylaw anyways.
Okay, thank you.
So, in the two, excuse me, Your Worship and Council, I like the idea of the economic impact opportunity. I don't think this bylaw is going to have much effect on that, that would be my opinion. The reason I'm saying that is if Alberta gets around to getting their own commission, and Saskatchewan has a commission, obviously then the opportunity is here, economic-wise and tourism, traffic-wise, to host whatever event might be needed. I don't know that this type of bylaw though is advantageous, and the reason we're bringing it forward is because of the concern about the liability to the city, the potential liability, we might say, because we haven't had any situations. But when we looked at what was happening in the rest of the world, and Edmonton being one of them, we said, you know what, we need to bring this to council. This is the place to have this discussion and this debate. You might want to go out and check with your citizens as well, and we could arrange that. But I think the real answer is if we want to host those events, we still could do it. And that's no impact on this bylaw, really. So.
Thank you, City Manager. I appreciate that. I think that shed some light on it. I think that by all means, that the liability factor is the first concern we have on making economic development and business opportunities that rise from this and for our community. But I think that as a business owner, I should always lean towards the liability factor myself in today's day and age, and that's moved from where in the past it may not have been. But I think that as City Council, we need to be fully aware of the liability factors that this brings to our city and our responsibility in that factor first of all. Councilor Buckland.
Thank you, Worship. I think worth noting again is when I saw this come up on the agenda, before I even read it, my initial thought was, hey, look at that. There's administration being proactive at looking at something based on a situation I was assuming that happened in close proximity to here. You know, we're looking around, our administration is looking around at things and seeing, hey, this could possibly be a potential problem for our city. We should bring this forward to council. So on the outside of it, I thought it was a good catch to bring this forward at this time. You know, sometimes it's unfortunate that it takes an event to bring something like that to our attention, but on the other side of it, an event like that brought something to someone's attention, it didn't get swept under the rug, it didn't get ignored. It was like, here's an opportunity for us to discuss this. So I think that was a good move.
Good point. Any other questions or comments for administration on this? We'll look forward to seeing it come back to council. With some of this information and any other information that you're able to update from Lethbridge, the roving commission, as it's referred to, see if the province by then has taken some action on this issue, because I'm sure that if it's affecting the city of Edmonton, that brings liability to the municipal world, which is ultimately concerned the provincial government. So I'm sure there will be some action taken, we hope, by the provincial government to regulate this. Moving on to 7.2, the draft bylaw 23-2017.
Again, Your Worship and Council, this is a legislative services matter. I'll defer to City Clerk.
Thank you, City Manager, through the Mayor to the City Council. Once again, this is an information report. This is to provide the community with a copy of the draft bylaw 23-2017 City Commissioner bylaw for review and direction. The City Commissioner is appointed pursuant to Section 147(1) of the Westminster Charter. Draft bylaw 23-2017 further expands upon the mandated authorities and functions that are assigned to the Commissioner by the Charter. The bylaw refers to the formal name of the Commissioner as it is defined in the Westminster Charter. However, within the bylaw, it proposes that the Commissioner be referred to as the City Manager. The objective of this bylaw is to create a bylaw that is consistent with governing legislation and outlines the duties and responsibilities of the Commissioner. We will do legal review once we have received first reading of the bylaw to ensure that it's correct in its format, and it does follow the charter in its directions.
Thank you, City Clerk. Any questions or comments for the City Administration regarding this? I guess the one I have, I'll direct to City Clerk. Should we ever see the charter open for review between the two provincial governments, would this be something that would be changed at that time, potentially the charter, or is the legislation from the provincial level always the Commissioner, and we're simply just cleaning our bylaws up?
So the way the charter, and you're referring to how we refer to the Commissioner, the charter refers to the Commissioner by its formal name, but it also allows for the council to identify, either the CAO or the City Manager. It allows council to designate how they want to refer to their employee. You'll see that as we go through the bylaw, that it talks about what his duties and responsibilities are, and those are consistent with the charter. We've also added in that in section 4.9 that the Commissioner shall at all times represent the city in a fair, ethical, and honest manner and reflect the overall strategic priorities of the city as defined by council. It also refers to what happens if there's an incapacity in the appointment, dismissal, or incapacitation or suspension of it.
Councilor Baker.
For me, Your Worship, it's got a humorous story behind the City Commissioner and the City Manager. The name in the city In past history, somebody say, you want to talk to the commissioner? And you say, who? The water commissioner, the whoever, like commissioner, they just couldn't relate commissioner. It's like counselor. Is that your lawyer or is that your city councilor? Or that's what we call them aldermen, because people understood that. And maybe they understand counselor and commissioner. So we said, well, why don't we start calling them city manager? And people will understand. I don't know if we ever amended the charter unless somebody did it. We just called them the city manager so that somebody know what you're talking about. Believe it or not, that's a little bit of the history behind it.
I think that as an example, TV often gives us a good example of what people want to believe, because there have been various references to the commissioner, and depending on where you are and what state, country you live in, the commissioner has multiple responsibilities. So certainly that's why clarity is always important, based on the act, following what the legislature follows, then in turn our bylaw referring to the city manager as the commissioner, taking the position of commissioner. Because you're right, it helps with clarity.
The charter never got changed around?
No, I don't understand, it won't. It'll always be based on...
No, this isn't the charter change.
No, this isn't the charter change, it's simply just the bylaw, but because we refer to the charter. There,
When I first read this, I thought, yeah, anything with that? Changing would be 5 years doing that.
Yeah, it will be 5 years.
If I may, Councilor, the charter is the governing legislation, so the bylaw must follow the governing legislation.
And it says commissioner.
Yeah, and section 147, it refers to it as commissioner. 147(6) says that the city council may, at any time, change the title when it deems to be appropriate. And that's why we're referring it to the city clerk, or the city manager this time.
Cleaning up our bylaws again, which is always a good thing. Any other questions or comments? We'll look forward to the city administration bringing that forward. Before moving to the inquiries from the media and taking the recess, the council entering into camera, I would like to invite a representative of the RBA forward. I'd like to welcome you to council. I am aware that you have an item in camera which you would like to inquire, would like to inquire whether this item needs to be in camera as a result of proprietary information contained in the presentation. If the RDA representative is comfortable moving forward in a public meeting, then requested motion of council lifting this item from the camera would be discussed in this open public meeting.
Our proposal does contain proprietary information.
Thank you very much. Seeing that that is the case, we will be moving. The RDA representative indicates that it cannot be discussed in public, then I want to inform council that we'll hear this item in camera. However, council will not discuss, debate, or ask questions regarding the presentation other than to recommend that the item may be brought back to a future GPC meeting. So with that, I'll look to council for recess. Councillor Agnew, second. Councillor Monroe. All in favor? Carried.
Order